Welcome to A Fine Time, The Nanny Revisited. This is a podcast about The Nanny, where we recap each episode and then discuss, sharing our own unique take on each episode. I'm Bernadette.
And I'm Debbie. Today we're talking about episode 105, Fransom. As usual, we'll start with a brief summary of the episode. After Cece and Chester appear on the cover of Park Place magazine, Cece hires Fran to be Chester's dog walker. This is a mutually beneficial arrangement. Cece needs a new dog walker and Fran needs cash so she can buy Yetta a bridal shower present. However, as per usual, things do not go as planned. Fran and Gracie walk Chester in Central Park, only for him to be dog-napped by an Art Garfunkel look-alike and held for ransom. Cece turns the tables on the kidnapper and offers a $20,000 reward for his capture. Fran and Val decide to claim the reward for themselves, split 60-40 in favor of Fran since she's the one who lost Chester. Fran and Val trace the dog-napping couple to Greenwich Village, but end up being taken hostage too. Maxwell then follows the kidnapper's directions in order to rescue Fran et al. However, things take a turn for the worse for the kidnappers when they accept some fast-acting chocolate X-lax that Fran received from Grandma Yetta. Maxwell unties the hostages, and Fran tells him about an ancient Israeli custom that says that when a man saves a woman's life, she must stand by his side forever in a professionally decorated mock Tudor house on a large corner lot in Great Neck, of course. He rejects that custom out of hand because, well, they don't live in Israel. So Fran offers him some chocolate X-lax too. Bernadette, do you want to add anything?
I do not.
All right. Would you like to take us to scene one in the kitchen?
Yes, so we start out in the kitchen. Fran's at the table when Niles comes in through the side door and he tells Fran that he found a gift for Yetta's bridal shower. He got her the Kama Sutra Big Print Edition.
Mm-hmm.
Fran's looking at it. Niles, she's an elderly woman. Meanwhile, with her new bionic hips, and this page 89 is like a walk in the park. And then Niles asks Fran, like, well, what did you get her? And Fran's like, I can't afford to get anything. I don't know where all my money goes. Watch it. You're going to spill on my new Gucci bag. And it's like, yeah, maybe that's where your money's going, Fran.
Mm-hmm.
At that moment, Maxwell walks into the kitchen and he compliments Fran on her outfit. Uh, we can talk about that outfit more in our shtick later, unless you want to talk about it now.
Later's
But
fine. Now is fine. Your
okay,
choice.
okay. And Fran, of course, says, "Thank you. I just bought it." So again,
Mm-hmm.
another example of where her money is going.
Correct.
And Maxwell comments, "Oh, you're in a good mood this morning." And Fran's like, "Why should I be depressed just because a woman 3 times my age is getting married before me?" At that moment, Cece walks in carrying Chester. And if you'll remember, lovely listeners, Chester is a dog, and in real life is actually Fran Drescher's dog, right?
Correct.
Um, and so Niles, upon Cece entering with Chester, says, "Oh, Mazel Tov, you're getting married."
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then Maxwell, though, turns to Fran and is like, "Why is Yetta getting married at her age?" And Fran, very like pointedly, is like, "I guess it's because somebody asked her." And she gives
Uh-huh.
him a look.
Yeah.
And so, like, Maxwell immediately starts to like try to like,
Extricate himself.
yes. And she's like, "Oh, well, she waited a long time before rushing into her second marriage. That's a very wise thing." And then he walks out
Yeah.
of the kitchen. Meanwhile, Cece kind of sidles up to Fran. She's holding up a magazine. Fran's not looking at her though, but Cece's like, "Have you seen this month's cover of Park Place magazine?" And we as the audience can see the cover. It's Cece with Chester, and the
Mm-hmm.
title is, wealthy heiresses and their dogs. But again, Fran's not paying attention, and she's like, "Oh, who cares? It's always some horsey looking debutante clutching her blue blood fiance." But then Fran actually turns, "Oh, it's you and Chester."
Right.
And CC again explains, yeah, they did a spread on wealthy heiresses and their dogs, you know, walking their dogs and all that kind of stuff. And Fran's like, oh, I didn't know you walk Chester in Central Park. And Cece's like, oh, not me, Lupe. That is till she up and died on me. And she's very cavalier, as is usual for Cece.
She's cold. As
Yeah.
Fran put it, if she were Jewish, her last name would be Iceberg.
Yeah. And again, like, she's not afraid of being busted for, like, not being truthful about walking Chester because, like, who's going to bust me but except the mutt? And at
Right.
that time, Chester kind of growls at her, but we continue with Fran saying to, Cece, well, with all your dough, you should find a place to hide it before the government gets it. And she holds out the Gucci bag from before. How about right here?
Yup.
And Cece's like, well, Nanny, fine. If you're strapped for cash, I have a job that would utilize your unique talents. Oh, you know how to use a pooper scooper, don't you? And Fran's like, are you suggesting that I be your dog walker? And Cece's like, I'll pay you $10 an hour. And Fran's like, you know how much I get paid to watch three children? Half that. When do I start? And she grabs Chester.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so this opening scene we have establishing that Fran is going to be Cece's new dog walker. Do you have anything to add to this scene?
I do not.
Okay, will you take us to the living room?
So we have the fine women, Fran and uh, Sylvia and Yetta, and of course Val is there. And so they're talking about Yetta's bridal shower. And so Fran asks her mother, why did you book Harry's clam bar when Daddy's elk lodge would be so much better for the shower? And Sylvia's like, honey, Daddy is not an elk anymore. And Val is like, Sylvia, you told my mother he was no longer a stallion. How many clubs does he belong to? And everyone's like, okay. Um, the question Fran asks, oh, sorry, Gracie is also there, I should mention. Fran asks what Yetta's fiance is like because she hasn't met him. And Sylvia's like, what's to meet? He's one of the alpacacas at the home. And Gracie's like, what's an alpacaca? And Fran's like, well, literally it means old cock or spaniel. It's a very affectionate term. And so Yetta, I think actually, so Yetta walks in there. I don't remember. I think she might not have been there before, but anyway, she walks in. She's like, here's my shower plan. And Sylvia kind of gives her a hard time. Like, look who's planning her own shower. Yesterday you wore your underpants as a beret. And Yetta turns to her and is like, I don't have to take that from you. I'm not even sure you're mine. And
Hmm.
everyone's talking, and in comes Maxwell. Miss Fine, what's the problem here? And Fran's like, what problem? It's just three generations of fine women planning a shower. And so Maxwell chimes in that he's heard that they've already booked Harry's clam bar. Oh, what a pity. You could have had it here. Well, guess what? That was the wrong thing to say because they all agree to that. Um, and then Cece comes in carrying Chester and gets Fran's attention. Chester just ate his kibble and now needs to go number two. Fran takes Chester already. Boy, I should have some of that kibble for breakfast. And as like Fran's getting ready to take Chester for a walk, Yetta digs in her fanny pack and takes out some squares of chocolate and hands them to Fran. Here, Franny, um, I want a whole case of chocolate X-Lax playing bingo. And Fran's like, that's a prize? Well, I guess when you're a senior, taking X-Lax is like taking ecstasy. And off they go for Chester's walk. Do you have anything you want to add?
Oh, just as a side note, that phrase that you were talking about earlier,
Alpaca. Alpaca.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, in like what with the closed captioning on, it looked like alter cocker.
Yeah, that's not how it is spelled.
Yes, I figured.
Yeah.
So anyway,
But for some reason, the closed captioning does not pick up the Yiddishized words. So
nope, doesn't seem so.
it's all right. Would you like to take us then to Central Park?
Yes, so we are now in Central Park. Fran is there with Gracie and Chester. And Gracie's like, oh, this is a great place to scope out guys. And Fran's like, oh, well, honey, your father and I are sort of an item. He's just waiting until the time is right. And Gracie's like, uh-huh. And that pony daddy promised me. Fran's like, yeah. Gracie just goes, glue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all right. And we're off. How's my lipstick? Good? Hair big enough? Gracie's like, it's walking in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Look sharp. There's a live one.
Mm-hmm.
And a man approaches them. And he actually approaches Gracie first and says, excuse me, miss, I just had to come and tell you, you have the most beautiful mother I've seen. Oh, well, she's not my mother. She's my sister. And Fran's like, no, I'm the nanny. And then kind of behind, like, so surreptitiously hands Fran, what, or Fran, hands Gracie what looks like chocolate or something.
I thought
Candy.
it was money. But anyway,
Okay.
it's some sort
That
of
was like a
bribe.
candy bar, but some type of bribe or like reward, right?
Right.
So anyway, the man introduces himself that, I'm Brian. And Fran's like, oh, I'm Fran. This is Gracie. And this is Chester. And Brian's like, oh, you look like you could breed some champions. And Fran's like, well, all of the fine women are pretty fertile. Oh, you mean the dog?
Mm-hmm.
And Brian goes, oh, my dog's around here somewhere. It's a Dalmatian. Her name's Dot. And Fran's like, oh, Dot, that's. And she and Gracie kind of give each other like a look. Cute. Obviously, they don't think the name Dot's cute.
Because it's not at all unique for a Dalmatian.
Hmm. And Brian's like, oh, she loves running. She's running around somewhere here. And Fran's like, oh, that looks fun, Chester. Why don't you go network? I'll get your collar. And so, like, Fran ends up putting Chester on the ground. Chester runs off. Fran, like, tosses a ball for Chester to play with. And then we don't see Chester at this moment, but Fran's like, oh, stop it, don't do that. And she's like, oh, this is so embarrassing. And Brian's like, well, if I could do that, what he's doing, I'd never leave the house.
Mm-hmm.
And again, one of those comments that would have totally flown over our heads as children, right?
Correct.
So Brian keeps talking. He's like, oh, he's such a lucky boy. He gets to go home with the world's cutest nanny. And Fran's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, your day may come. But then
Uh-huh.
she realizes something. Where's Chester? And she starts to get kind of frantic. And Brian's like, okay, you look over there. I'll check by the phone. And Gracie and Fran are up looking around. Fran, he's gone. And then
Mm-hmm.
they're both like, Chester. And Fran's like, oh, Gracie, you lost Chester. And that's the scene. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I do
Okay, can
not.
you take us to the living room?
So we're in the living room and Fran is crying and she's upset and Maxwell's trying to comfort her, telling her it's all right, we'll find him. It's not like you lost one of the children. And then Fran, you know, pauses and like, Gracie. And Gracie's like, I'm here, Fran. Oh, okay. And so Val
Mhm.
comes in and she says, I just called the police precinct. They're sending over Jeff. Oh, good, says Fran. And Maxwell's like, Jeff, because he clearly doesn't know who he is. And Niles fills him in. Ex-boyfriend, has his own handcuffs, looks like a younger version of you. And Maxwell changes his tune. He's like, well, I don't think there's any reason to involve the police right now. I mean, Miss Babcock should just call the pound. Oh, Miss Babcock, says Fran. How am I going to tell her? She's going to be devastated. She slept with Chester every night. And Niles is like, well, on the upside, she won't be so cramped in that tiny little basket. And so at that point, in walks Cece, and Fran's like, oh, Miss Babcock, I have something to tell you, and it's going to be very hard for you to take. And Fran's like, still clearly crying and upset. And Cece jumps to her worst case scenario, turns to Maxwell. You asked her to marry you, you scum? 10 years of my life. And Maxwell cuts her off. No, no, Cece, Miss Fine lost Chester in Central Park. Cece turns to Fran. Oh, you scare the hell out of me.
Mhm.
And that's when, Ace Ventura, as Niles refers to Jeff, appears. And he greets Maxwell because he clearly knows who Maxwell is. Um, and he comes in with a colleague, and he explains that his colleague is going to tap the phone line. so that they can run a phone trace. And he explains that we've been having a series of Central Park dog nappings. And he's like, yeah, we think that they staked out Chester since he was on the cover of the magazine. Friend's like, they? He's like, yeah. Well, we believe the perps are a husband and wife team. My friend's like, my perp's not single. Oh, Jeff, I can't believe Chester was kidnapped. I'm so happy you're here. And she's like touching him and like holding on to him. Um, and as she's doing that, she's like, oh, have you been working out? You're like a rock. And of course, Maxwell does not like Fran's commentary or Fran touching Jeff for that matter. And so he
Yeah.
interjects with, let's not forget the urgency of a missing dog here, please. And then the phone rings. And Jeff encourages Fran to answer the phone because it could be him. And she's like, oh, he's like, well, I don't want you to be nervous. I'm going to guide you through this, okay? And Max was like, she knows how to talk into a bloody telephone. And so
Mm-hmm.
Jeff kind of ignores him, but then tells Fran to, answer and, see if you recognize the voice, okay? And Fran's like, okay, hello? I do. It's Ma.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Ma. Oh, hold on a minute. I'm getting the call waiting. And so she flips to the other call. Hello? And then we see it's the Art Garfunkel lookalike. Yeah. Now you listen and you listen good. If you ever want to see Chester live again, oh, okay, I'll hold. He says to who we now know is his wife. Oh, she needs to hang up with her mother. And then, Chester's barking and he turns to his wife, Ariana, and tells her to shut that damn window. Sorry, not only is Chester's barking, but there's the sound of the ice cream truck outside. He says to shut the damn window, that he's trying to demand ransom here. And she, of course, has her own shtick. And she's like, you just want to flirt with that nanny.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she's like, you flirt with all dog owners, even men. He's like, one time. And I got you a big screen TV, so let it go. And so anyway, then Fran's back. He's like, oh no, now I've lost my place. Yeah, yeah. You tell Cece Babcock I want $20,000. And if she tries to involve the police or the media, I'm sending her dog back to her one paw at a time. Huh. Please, I can't take that horrible sound because now that's when Chester's barking. And Fran's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm sorry, sir, but this happens to be my natural voice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so she explains that she tells the people in the Sheffield household that he wants $20,000 or Chester gets it. And so Cece takes the phone. Me and that mutt are supposed to shoot the cover of Red Book on Tuesday. Hello, mister. I'm going to tell you the same thing I told my poverty stricken uncle who needed an operation. Nobody squeezes a dime out of Cece Babcock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Clearly, she's taking the threat to Chester's life very seriously.
Yeah. And that leads us into the next scene where we see Cece on the TV. She's
Correct.
very serious. And she, explains that someone stole her dog and is demanding, $20,000. But she's going to turn around because she's going to offer $20,000 to anyone who turns him in.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you have 24 hours to bring my little, and off screen you hear Pomeranian home.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, anywhere you go, you're going to have to ask yourself, is this the day they get me? And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, again, she was acting all sad and stuff, but she really was intense with that line. And Fran, though, at that time kind of gestures to Val, let's go get out our coats. Val's like, why? And Fran's like, we're going to get the kidnapper ourselves. And Val's like, how? We don't even know where he is. And Fran's like, when I talked to him on the phone, I heard an ice cream truck in the background that was playing The Way We Were. And Val gasps. And then she goes, so? And Fran's like, so where in New York does an ice cream truck play a Barbara Streisand ballad? And together they say, Greenwich Village.
Right.
And so Fran explains, we're going to go rescue Chester and collect that 20 grand. And Val's like, so if I help you, we'll split it 50-50. And Fran immediately is like 60-40. And Val's like, hey, why 60-40? Fran's like, well, I'm the one who lost him, Val. Now, side
Right.
note, I thought the reason would be because she's the one who picked up on the clues, and put it together, not because she's the one who lost him.
Correct. Correct. But also notice that Val took that as a legitimate answer.
Oh yeah, she immediately accepted that as, oh, okay.
Correct. I have nothing to add, so I'll take us to Greenwich Village.
Okay.
So Fran and Val are in a ice cream truck, a Mr. Softy truck specifically, and we hear a bell, like a school bell, and Fran tells Val that that's a recess bell. I heard it over the phone. Pull over by that school. And so then we see them like they're hanging out in the truck, and Val tells her that she's so impressed with how you used your charms to borrow this ice cream truck. And Fran's like, yeah, I know, but I gotta tell you, I'm really not looking forward to dating a guy who's made his career out of being known as Mr. Softy. Again, one of those comments that we would not um, understand as children.
Hmm.
And it's a very quick scene. So,
Yeah.
do
It's
you
a
have anything?
very quick kind of just setting the fact that that's kind of their plan
Correct. That's how they're doing
to
it.
be in an ice cream truck, which I gotta say, I did not see that aspect of it coming.
There. How could you?
Right? So then we quickly go back to Brian and Ariana's apartment, and Brian's like freaking out. She's like, that he's like, that Babcock chick turned the tables on us. She's offered a reward to whoever turns me in. And Ariana's like, how much is she offering? And he starts
Mm-hmm.
saying 20,000. What do you care? And Ariana's like, don't get so hysterical. Oh, on the news they're looking for someone who looks like Art Garfunkel.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of like, I think there's a little more like emphasis showing the actor who's playing Brian to show the resemblance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Brian again is still going on freaked out. I can't believe the whole city's after me. I can't even walk around. Oh,
You can't
yeah,
walk
I could
outside.
get killed. Yeah, I could get killed.
Mm-hmm.
Hear the ice cream truck the sound come through the window, and Ariana immediately is like, "Oh, baby, please, will you get me an ice cream?" And Brian's like, "Are you listening to me? They could gun me down." And Ariana like slips the shirt over her shoulder, like down her shoulder. Baby, I'm so hot.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian to me is like, I could use a nutty buddy. And yeah, I was not expecting the lure of ice cream to draw them out, but okay.
I
Is there
mean,
anything you to add to that?
once you saw the ice cream truck, you knew it had to feature in somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just saying in generally the
Fair.
plan.
But also, could you imagine, like, if, I mean, first off, I would never be a dog napper because I don't believe in, stealing people's pets. Um, but like, could you imagine, like, being in a situation where, like, your partner saying that, like, I could be gunned down, the entire city's after me, and then being like, oh, I really need ice cream. Like, I'm
Yeah.
so hot. Like, it just, no. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
so we're now on the street where we're at the truck, and our dog napper's kind of little suspicious looking, and Val is the, shall we say, the front person. So like Fran's sitting in the driver's seat eating ice cream, and
Hmm.
Val greets the dog napper. Hello, may I help you? He's like, yeah, let me have a dreamsicle and a nutty buddy, and make it quick. She's like, okay, well, they're, and so she like digs them out. They're $1 each, so that would be, and she like cannot figure out that 1 plus 1 is 2, and
Uh-huh.
so um the dog napper holds up $2 bills, and so she takes them and says thank you, and then he walks away, and Fran pops up. Val, that's the guy that stole Chester. That's him. And Val's like, oh my God, Art Garfunkel has to steal a dog?
Hmm. Yep. So then we quickly jump into the apartment building where Fran and Val have changed out of their uniforms,
Mm-hmm.
and they're approaching the apartment door. And, Val's asking how she even knows, how Fran even knows which apartment. the dog went to, or sorry, the dog napper went to. And then Val even makes a comment, I can't think with the dog barking. It's like, well,
Hmm.
yeah, obviously the dog barking is a clue. Um, but anyway, Fran tells Val to get down on all fours. And Val's like, I know you miss walking Chester, but, and, you know, Fran cuts her off. Like, she needs Val to get down so she can step on her and look through the window that's above the door.
Hmm.
And so she does, like, Val gets down. Fran steps on her, is looking through the window at the door. But at that moment, Ariana actually opens the door. You know, Fran sees Chester, but then Ariana opens the door asking, what do you want? And Fran makes a comment that if, you know, Val can sell one more magazine subscription, she can go to the special camp or whatever.
Hmm.
Side note, like Fran is wearing like heeled boots,
Yep,
and
which would really hurt.
I felt so bad for Val. That would have been
Hmm.
very painful.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we're now back in the Sheffield home, and Cece is talking to the police about how she misses her little Chester. You know, I used to let him sleep with me. And Niles is like, let him. Who do you think taught him to beg? And the phone rings, and the police are like, that's our guy. Okay, pick it up. Come on. And so Cece answers the phone. This is Cece Babcock, and it's the dog napper. Well, you are so willing to risk your dog's life. What would you say if I told you that I had Fran Fine? And Cece's like, well, it goes something like this.
Hmm. Yeah,
um,
she's like, woohoo!
Thank you. That's what it was. I was like, she reacts so positively. Needless to say, Maxwell
Mhm.
doesn't agree with that. And he says, Cece, for God's sakes. He takes the phone. Listen, this is Maxwell Sheffield. Now don't hurt her. I'll give you anything you want. Wait a minute. I never thought I'd say this, but I want to hear Miss Fine's voice. So the dog napper turns to Fran and says, your boss is on the phone. She's like, Mr. Softy?
Yeah.
He puts the phone to her ear, and Maxwell's saying, Miss Fine, can you hear me? And she's like, oh, Mr. Sheffield, help. And she gets cut off. The phone gets taken away from her. So our dog napper says, all right, that's enough. Now, you listen carefully, Sheffield. You have 30 minutes. Here are your instructions. Do you want me to go through all of the instructions with the I can't think
I
of what
have
it's
that
called.
kind of separate,
Okay, cool. Then you
but
can totally do it.
okay.
So we get the
So,
instructions. Here we are.
yeah. So, in the background, like, of this next, it's a montage essentially of
Thank you.
like
That was the word I couldn't think of.
Maxwell following through with the instructions. In the background, we hear like a instrumental version of Secret Agent Man. So Brian is telling Maxwell to do this. Okay, put 40 grand in a paper bag. Then you're going to go to the bowling alley on University and 12th. And again, we see Maxwell doing all of these steps as we hear him. At the bowling alley, rent shoes and a bowling bag. Put the money in the bag and put on the shoes. Go to lane, I think 7 or 2, whatever.
Wherever the Jenny Craig. Yeah.
Where the Jenny Craig League is bowling. There will be a note under the first chair. Okay, so side note, a lady, like an older lady, sits down in that chair right when Maxwell's getting there. And so he like
Mhm.
sits in the chair next to her and like tries to like put his hand underneath. And so the older woman kind of like looks at him and winks at him before getting up. But anyway, we continue. That note has a map to a YMCA. Go to the swimming pool. At the bottom of the pool, there's a key to a locker with a cell phone in it. And like we see Maxwell at the pool and he jumps in to get the key.
Right. So he like peers and looks for it and then jumps.
Yeah, and gets it. And then we hear more, at exactly 5 o'clock, I'll be calling to tell you where we'll make the exchange. Because again, the key is to one of the lockers in the locker room where the cell phone is. So we see all that happen, that, Maxwell retrieves the key and everything. Uh, then it cuts to like a really quick little thing.
You can continue.
Okay. So we cut back to the living room in the Sheffield home. We're just like, damn, we lost him. He wouldn't have actually jumped into the pool wearing a tracking device, would he? And all three kids are like, yeah, he would. And Jeff's like, well, he's on his own now.
Right. Um, did you notice, I'm gonna admit, oh, um, I was gonna say, did you notice that the gray streak in Maxwell's hair disappeared?
Oh, did it?
I
I didn't,
personally didn't
I didn't.
notice it, but that is one of the trivia facts listed on IMDb.
Ooh,
So
interesting.
I thought that was interesting too. Um,
Hmm.
okay, so Maxwell goes and he opens the locker, and as he's like racing to the locker, we hear a cell phone ring. He answers, "Hello," and we hear the dog napper say, "You did very well." And Maxwell's like, "Yes, well, considering I forgot to write anything down, now give me back my nanny."
Yeah,
And
he like yells it.
it's ridiculous.
And he's still dripping wet from having jumped into the pool.
Correct. Um, and so the dog napper responds, "I'm giving the orders here. Now walk 1 block west to the Chinese restaurant. Hand the money to the woman in the black hat, and then you can have your friends." And then like he hangs up the phone. He turns to Ariana. So like it's sort of like the split. We saw part of the conversation with Maxwell, part of it with him.
Mhm.
He is in the back of a truck with his wife, Fran, Val, and Chester. And Fran, Val, and Chester are like tied. They're not gagged because they're able to talk. Um,
Mhm.
he turns to his wife, Mrs. Levine. "You're going to be rolling in cash." And Fran turns to Val, "Levine, I'll tell you, when Jews go bad." And so like the Levines are like kissing and like being amorous, shall we say. And so
Mhm.
Fran starts trying to like untie the rope around her wrist. And well, they notice, and he's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, I was reaching for some chocolates." And so she like gestures towards like her bag. Um, and Ariana's like, "Chocolate, I love chocolate." And Fran's like, "Oh, well, I've got some delicious chocolates that my grandma gave me that she won playing bingo. Would you like some?" And Ariana gestures yes. So she takes it from Fran and starts unwrapping it and explains that, well, where I come from, chocolate is an aphrodisiac. And Fran's like, "Oh, you come from Flushing." And
Mhm.
Mr. Levine is like, do you have any more?" And she's like, "Sure, here, help yourself." And she hands more to him. And Val's like, "You know what? I would like some." "No, Val," says Fran. And she's like, "All of a sudden they're your friends. Who are you, Patty Hearst?" And
Mhm. And she's like pouting.
yeah, because Val clearly doesn't remember what they are.
Mhm.
Is this where you cut the scene or did you have it continue?
I did, but you can actually continue if you want.
Sure. Um, so we so Ariana's left, and now we see Mr. Levine, the dog napper, looking with binoculars, and he's explaining what he sees. "Okay, Ariana's walking towards your boss. She's running towards your boss. She's running past your boss without taking the money and pulling a construction worker out of a porter potty." And then like his stomach hurts. He's like, "Ooh, I better go see what she's. Ooh, I'm gonna go take care of." And he like gets out of the van and like goes. Um, and
Leaving the back doors of the van wide open.
correct, correct. And Val's like, "What happened? Why did he run away?" And Fran's like, "Well, Val, when you gotta go, you gotta go." And so she starts shouting for Mr. Sheffield, "Help, help us." And he jumps in. He's like, "Oh my God, are you all right?" And she's like, "Yeah, oh, you're my hero, Mr. Sheffield. In Israel, there's an ancient custom that says that when a man saves a woman's life, she must stand by his side forever." He, of course, is like untying them at this point. "Must stand by his side forever in a professionally decorated mock Tudor house on a large corner lot in Great Neck." He's like, "Yes, but we don't live in Israel." And she's like, "Haha, I know. You want a piece of chocolate?"
Mhm.
Needless to say, she did
Yep.
not like his response. Um,
Nope. He takes it. We don't like he takes it from her.
correct,
Um, but we don't see him eat it or anything. And again,
correct.
he's still dripping wet from
He
having
is
been
dripping
in the
wet.
pool. So last scene of the episode is we're back in the Sheffield living room. Yetta's there. Niles comes in. Yetta, before I go to the market, what would you like for your shower? And Yetta's like, some of those rubber daisies for the bottom of the tub and one of those detachable water massages. They're fun. And
Mm-hmm.
House was like, actually, I meant for your wedding shower. And yes, they are. And then they high five
Mm-hmm.
each other.
Yep.
And that's the episode.
Yep. Do you have anything you want to talk about before we get into our sticks?
Just generally speaking, like Ariana and Brian are not the smartest
No.
because they're like clearly revealed their faces,
Mm-hmm.
clearly even said their last name. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if Brian, like, we never hear Ariana call him something other than Brian, but I wouldn't be surprised if he actually gave his first name.
Right. Um,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and like that whole, it was interesting, like, because it made for an interesting montage, but like it was such a convoluted plan. And like, how did he so quickly get a key to the bottom of the
Uh-huh.
pool and like all of this stuff? Um, so yeah. What about you?
I mean, I think I've said this before, but this is one of those places where the series just like kind of goes off the deep end. And here we see
Hmm.
Maxwell literally jumping into the deep end.
Yeah.
Um, it's peculiar, it's weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't
Hmm.
I especially do not like the idea of someone trying to kidnap someone's pet and holding them hostage. That concerns me. Like,
Well, and like, okay, no offense to Chester, but Cece wasn't with Chester in the park. How in the world would these would Brian and Ariana know that that particular Pomeranian is
that's a good
Chester
question.
from the cover? You know, like, how did they even know it was him to
That's an
begin with?
excellent question. I mean, a lot of Pomeranians unfortunately look alike. I'm not being speciesist or
Yeah.
breedist or whatever, but like they're bred to look a certain way.
Yeah. And also, I mean, if someone off the bat says, "Oh, you look like you can breed champions or whatever," that would put me on guard in terms of like, why are you like talking about that aspect of my pet?
Um, Fran didn't think he meant her pet. She
Yeah,
thought
but
he
she
meant
realized,
her, which,
she realized
but
that,
hold on. Your point was if someone said that about your pet, you'd be concerned. I would be more concerned that I thought he was saying it about me.
yes, that too. Yeah.
Just saying.
Fran's not concerned either way.
Yeah,
Either.
yeah.
Either.
But also, he like makes a beeline for Gracie. Like
Yeah. I would
strange.
not want a strange man approaching
Uh-huh.
a child I'm in charge of, or any
Exactly.
child, really. But like
Right, but
that
especially one
whole
that you're
interaction.
responsible for.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. And then, yeah, I just didn't quite, the plan and all that kind of stuff didn't quite make sense. And I have to wonder, Ariana sees Fran and Val first, right? How do they apprehend Fran and Val? Because initially
That's
it's
because
two
there are two
against
of
one.
them. Yeah,
Two against one, and they could have run out the door, like run down the hall. We never see any weapons or
correct.
anything. Um, I don't know. It's just
There were a lot of things
interesting.
that don't add up.
Yes. Yep. And
Uh,
it's so convenient that Fran can use her charm to get an ice cream truck on such short
correct.
notice.
But also side note, like again, I don't like the idea of someone dog napping someone's pet. But like
Hmm.
of all the possible victims, Cece was the wrong target because
Hmm.
most of the time it seems like she couldn't care less about Chester. She cares now because they're supposed to take a picture for Red Book. But like,
Yeah. Oh, side note, the police. Up, I guess he's on his own. Why
uh-huh,
didn't you have someone tail it like undercover?
right,
What were you gonna do anyway, even if the tracking device still worked, if you're nowhere near him?
correct. Also, shouldn't they have like said to Maxwell that, the wire is not waterproof. Also, shouldn't Maxwell have gotten a shock? Like,
Anyway,
there are a lot of
there's
things
a
that don't
lot of
add up.
holes.
Correct. Correct. Um,
Okay. Want to
yeah,
jump into favorite fashion?
sure. Did you have any favorite fashion?
I didn't. Did you?
I did not either, but I did not like what Fran was wearing when she got kidnapped.
Yeah. I was also going to make the comment like the outfit she's wearing in the first scene where like Maxwell compliments her. I
Hmm.
wasn't really a fan of.
No, wasn't
I
it
don't
like
know if you liked it or not.
wasn't
It
it
was
like
like
gray
patterned.
and pattern gray or silver patterned with like
Yeah. And then she
copper?
was wearing like, yeah. And then she was wearing like a yellow headband and like all of that. I just thought, I personally, it was just because they specifically complimented it. I was like, I wouldn't. but,
Right.
but yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was she wearing again when she got kidnapped?
So she's wearing this like black um I don't know, is it pleather? Is it a
Yeah,
petroleum product? I don't
something like
know.
that.
It's like
Shiny.
a yeah, it's shiny. It's not very flattering. Um, it's like a long jacket with a skirt underneath. But what's notable about the jacket is it has like pink fringe, like
Yeah.
on the sides of the jacket, on the collar, and then she's wearing a pink turtleneck. Um, it's a very Fran Fine-esque outfit. It just doesn't do anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
oh,
And I mean,
sorry, can I just
go ahead.
chime in? Sorry.
Yeah.
I should have said this before we jumped into favorite fashion, but like what kind of lunatic thinks it's a good idea to take your dog's like leash and collar off like in Central Park where he's in no way corralled? Sorry. I just
Yeah.
needed to throw that out there. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, I didn't really have much else to say regarding fashion.
Me neither.
I'm like, okay. So then we can jump into notable New Yorkers.
There are a
Um,
bunch. I mean,
yeah.
not like an all-time high, but there are a bunch.
Yeah. Yeah. So beginning with the Kama Sutra.
So the Kama Sutra is an ancient Indian text that talks about emotional fulfillment, eroticism, and sexuality. That's according to our friends at Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm. Did you have Gucci bag down?
I just said that it was a luxury brand, and I think we've talked about it before.
Yeah, it's a well-known luxury brand. So let's see here. Okay, question. Is Park Place a real magazine or no?
So I think the answer is yes. I tried searching for it, and I ended up finding a Facebook page for Park Place magazine. So I'm not sure if it is or if it was, and I quote, all about living well and loving it fashion, home design, travel, entertaining, and more.
Okay. Um, we've talked about Central Park before, I believe.
We have.
Mm-hmm. Um,
It's a notable green space in Manhattan.
yes. Um, and then okay, I don't think Harry's Clam Bar's a
No,
real one.
I think we tried looking into this um,
Yeah,
previously,
but
and it does not exist.
we're told again that the Moose was it the Elk
Elk
Lodge?
Lodge.
Mm-hmm. Was that, did they say a specific?
They just said elk. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the Elks are a real organization, according to elks.org. And I quote, Elks lodges bring so much more to their communities than just a building, golf course, or pool. They are places where neighbors come together, families share meals, and children grow up.
Did they also mention a different type of like organization?
No, it was Val saying, Sylvia, you told my mother he's no longer a stallion. How many clubs does he
Oh,
belong to?
okay. Um, did you put X-Lax down or no?
I did not, but I probably should have. Um, so
Yes.
XLax is, according to our friends at xlax.com, it is and I quote, trusted treatment for constipation for 100 years.
Oh, 100 years?
According to their website, they also add, and I quote, the XLax brand provides gentle, dependable overnight relief. We are so confident that you will be satisfied with X-Lax products. We guarantee it.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, so then I didn't really did you have any in the scene at Central Park? Did you have any
No,
references?
no.
Okay. So we'll skip ahead then
Although,
to eighth.
although,
Oh,
actually, hold on. Actually, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about him then or later, but the actor who played Brian.
you can go ahead.
So Brian Levine was played by Joey Slotnick, who is an American actor who's best known for his role in Twister. That's according to our friends at
Oh,
imdb.com.
huh. We then have a reference to Ace Ventura.
And I quote, a goofy detective specializing in animals goes in search of the missing mascot of the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins, end quote. That's according to our friends at IMDb.
Hmm. Is the Red Book a real thing?
So until January 2019, Redbook was an American magazine that targeted women um, that and was published by the Hearst Corporation. It now exists only as a website. That's according to our friends at
Oh,
Wikipedia.
that'll be interesting for later when we get there. But we have, I think we've specifically like had a reference to the way we were, the song
Maybe,
before.
probably. I looked it up because I wasn't certain. It's a
Hmm.
1973 Barbara Streisand song from her 15th studio album. It was written by Marvin Hamlish, who we've seen on
Hmm.
The Nanny, uh,
Yep.
Marilyn and Alan Bergman. And that's according to our
Hmm.
friends at Wikipedia.
And obviously, then she makes a direct reference to Barbara Streisand for the umpteenth time. Like I
Correct.
literally like I can't even count how many times she's been referenced throughout this series.
Correct.
Did you put down Greenwich Village at all or
We've
no?
talked about it before.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so yeah, Gar Art Gar Art Garfunkel.
One half of the performing duo Simon and Garfunkel from the 1960s. And that is according to our friends at artgarfunkel.com. But you missed Mr. Softy.
Oh, is that an actual thing?
Yeah. And I
Oh.
quote, Mr. Softy has been bringing the very best ice cream and frozen treats to kids and families since 1956. Mr. Softy is the largest franchiser of soft ice cream trucks in the United States.
Hmm.
That's according to our friends at mrsofty.com.
Okay. Did you put down Nutty Buddy?
I did. It's a vanilla ice cream cone, vanilla ice cream covered with chocolate flavored coating and peanuts in a waffle cone. That's
Okay.
according to our friends at Mayfield Dairy. Sorry, I take it back. Yeah, MayfieldDairy.com. That's right.
Did you put down Dreamsicle?
I did. It's an orange flavored popsicle. And that's according to our friends at thedairyalliance.com. And apparently they have a whole blog post about whether it is a dreamsicle or a creamsicle. And I read it and I still don't understand the difference. So
Yeah. Um, I know, I don't know. Did you recognize the instrumental during the montage as being Secret Agent Man?
yeah, so that is a song that was written by Steve Barry and P.F. Sloan. It was used as the opening song for the 1960s British spy series Danger Man. And that's according to our friends at Wikipedia.
Jenny Craig. I think we've
We have.
have we talked about? Okay. But I guess there's a specific league. Have we talked about the YMCA before? I think so,
Oh, maybe.
but I don't know.
The
Um,
young Christians, why
Young
young men,
men's.
women. Sorry, go ahead. I can't get my letters straight.
Yeah, the M is the men because the
Right. Sorry,
YW.
I don't know why I immediately jumped to
Young
Y.
Men's Christian Association. People may be also familiar with the song about
But
it.
yeah, by the
YMCA.
Village People.
Yeah, that is often played at wedding receptions. Um, but yeah, so let's keep going. So that's interesting that you said it was owned by the Hearst Corporation because later
Hmm.
we have Patty Hearst.
The granddaughter of William Randolph Hearst, who was kidnapped in 1974 by the Symbionese Liberation Army and who committed crimes with members of the army before she was captured and arrested. That's according to our friends at Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm. Um, did you put Great Neck or
I
no?
did. Great Neck is
Okay.
part of the town of North Hempstead in Nassau County, New York. And that's according to our friends at greatneckvillage.org.
Okay. Did you have anything else?
Yeah. Uh, Jeff, the police officer. Did you recognize him?
He was previously, is it
Uh-huh.
the same? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've
So
seen him before.
we have his name. He was played by Kane Pacoy, who's an actor and director known in my world best for his role on The Nanny, but he's also known for Pulp Fiction. He was on two previous episodes in season three. The first one was The Party's Over. That's the one where Fran and Val host a singles party at the Sheffield home and Fran gets
Hmm.
arrested. The
Hmm.
second one is in that episode, Love is a Many Blundered Thing, where Fran had a date with Jeff that she was there for like 10 minutes before blowing him off because she thought Maxwell was her secret admirer.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
and then the only other one I have is Yvonne, I'm going to mispronounce her last name, Scio. She played Ariana.
Hmm.
She is an Italian actress and director who's known for Redline, Rose Red, and Pink Panther. And those last two are according to our friends at IMDb.
Okay. Awesome. So ready for some Yiddish cop?
Yeah. So there isn't that much. Altecaker is, I believe, spelled ALTE, new word KAKER. It translates
Okay.
to, as Fran put it, old cock. It's used to mean an elderly person, as in a, and I quote, crotchety, fussy, ineffectual old man. And so that definition is from our friends at jewishlanguages.org. And the only other one I had was Mazel Tov, which, as Fran put it in season one, is pip pip in Yiddish. So it means like congratulations,
Hmm.
the wishes. So, did I miss anything?
I don't think so, because we established that's not actually like an old Israeli like thing that if you get your life saved, you have to stand by.
By a guy and live in Great Neck? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the ancient Israelis were not aware that Great Neck existed.
Yeah.
So
And they wouldn't know the Tudor style. Oh, I guess we didn't, for notable New Yorkers, we didn't really talk about Tudor, but
um Tudor style
for,
houses, I I don't know how to describe them. I'm looking at pictures of them right now. They're pointy.
hmm.
They
Well,
have
I mean, they
triangles.
have like the wooden beams, like they're like the white background with like the brown wooden beams. Um, it's steeply pitched roof with multiple overlapping front-facing gables, typically have a facade predominantly covered in brick but accented with half timber framing, widely spaced wooden boards with stuccato or stone in between.
And apparently they also originated in the United States, not Britain,
Oh,
according to our
interesting.
friends at housebeautiful.com.
Interesting. But
Um,
yeah, sorry, that was a quick
no, that's
diversion
fair.
back.
That's fair. I also realized that we missed that as we were talking. Um, yeah.
Okay, so then 90s nostalgia.
Old cars.
Yes, we specifically get like very close up with old cars. I would also note that we see the New York City skyline with the Twin Towers.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the the tracking equipment the police bring in to the Sheffield home just seems very outdated.
The old phones themselves seem outdated.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, a lot of this seems outdated
Hmm.
because again, and the whole having him go to the locker to get a cell phone out there and
And the old cell phone itself.
yeah. And again, like these days I feel like there's so much more like CCTV out there, like other ways to track a potential, suspect, especially since he was so blatantly like
Not good
showing
at
his
his job.
face. Yeah, showing his face and like in Central Park where inevitably someone probably had their phone out, like taking
Hmm.
pictures or filming or whatever.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, I also just personally don't see as many ice cream trucks these days.
Well, I hate to tell you, now we're sort of transitioning towards winter, but I know you mean
I
like,
mean, in general,
yeah.
even
Um,
in the summer.
No, I knew that's what you meant. I was just giving you a hard time because I could.
Uh-huh.
I know I've heard them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just I don't pay as close attention because I'm not as excited as I was when I was, a kid. Because
Mm-hmm.
now as an adult, I can eat ice cream anytime I want. No one's
Yeah.
gonna stop me.
Yeah, that's true. But the prices, $1
Oh, I
would
know.
be amazing.
I know.
On the flip
Um,
side, hearing that Fran makes half of $10, so $5 an hour for watching three kids is like,
which
oh,
which is funny because we've previously heard her say that she makes $6 an hour. So
hmm yeah. But regardless, less than $10 an hour for.
correct.
And she's like, yeah, I'll do $10 an hour. It's like, especially with how inflation has been in the past couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
cost of living has gone significantly up.
Correct.
Do you have any others?
No, just the whole episode to me just felt very dated.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yep. Okay. So future fun.
So, well, I'll start with the note that we just ended on, which was Fran's salary. So, salary is going to be a big deal next week because Fran decides she needs another credit card, and so she's filling out a paper credit card application because she wants to get some cute outfits. She and Cece have Dr. Joyce Brothers coming to decide who would be a better wife for Maxwell, Fran or Cece. And so Fran wants to buy some new clothing so she doesn't look like a cheap tart. Um, and Val encourages her not to put $50,000 as her salary, but to put 49.99 because that's how they got Val for the abdominizer. And so Fran puts that on her application, and then they leave, and Niles goes into her room to clean. And he, being his nosy self, decides that, well, I might be a reference, so I have a right to know. And he sees her salary and then demands a raise from Maxwell. And Maxwell um, says to him something like, well, you realize I'm actually in the room this time. And Maxwell refuses, so Niles quits, which leads to all kinds of other complications. So that's one. Two, uh, as you may recall, when Fran asks Sylvia what is Yetta's fiance like, she's like, oh, he's just another Altacaca in the home. It's funny that she can say that and she writes him off immediately because she hasn't met him yet, as we learn in a few weeks. She actually meets Sylvia actually meets Sammy on screen later this season and immediately doesn't like him because her father's only been dead, what is it, 25 years or something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then she accepts him as her stepdad, as her daddy, when she learns that he's related to Brian Gumble. Um, and then finally, I think it's worth noting that Chester temporarily actually moves in with the Sheffield family, while Cece is institutionalized after she
Mm-hmm.
learns that Fran and Maxwell got engaged. And that just
Mm-hmm.
happened to coincide with the actress Lauren Lane being on maternity leave, so it worked out well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now it's time to do our episode rating. As a reminder to our lovely listeners, we rate each episode from 1 to 5 lipsticks, with 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. We always reserve the right to make adjustments later. I mean, again, it's a bit arbitrary, but we do it for fun and
Hmm.
for discussion.
And
And
the
I
ratings
believe,
don't matter, the points don't
yeah,
count.
yes. And I believe this week, Debbie, it's your turn to go first.
I hate when it's my turn, especially when we're talking about episodes that just fundamentally do not advance the plot and do not make any sense. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I did not like this episode. I do not like the idea, as I've said before, I did not like the idea of pets being kidnapped because that is traumatic not just for the pet but for their humans. Um, I just none of this made any sense. It was too flippant. It was sort of like, I mean, the nanny does some slapstick comedy, but this was like them trying too hard. Um, Clearly, I do not like this episode. But then I'm like thinking, well, did I like it more or less than last week? I think it's
Mm-hmm.
more. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not great. I do not watch this episode unless I have to. I think for lack of better better choice, I think I need to give this like a 2.75. How about you,
Okay.
Bernadette?
So again, doesn't make much sense. Um, there are occasionally some funny moments, um, but fundamentally, like you said, it doesn't really advance the plot, doesn't really, again, make sense. I think, though, I still like it better than last week's episode. So I guess for now, I'll give it 3.25.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it there's episodes that are like really terrible, which are easy to rate. And then there are many more episodes that are fantastic, which are easy to rate. And then we've got these that are like blah, that are just
Mhm.
hard to put a number on it.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I don't think so either. So that's all we have for you today. We hope you had a fine time with us as we revisited The Nanny. Join us next time when we'll be discussing episode 106, The X Niles.
If you'd like to reach us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at Nanny Revisited. You can also send us email at findtimenannyrevisited@gmail.com. Have a great week.